So we're making an Abby Canucks-centered video today, because when it comes to this team, they just got themselves a big boost up front, and there also are some amazing performances that I think bear repeating, because, you know, we've been focused a lot on the main Canucks team. The Vancouver squad has been locked into the 2024 postseason. They're winning some games, they're losing a bunch of others, and there's a bit of a panic going on. I don't want to say they're playing perfectly, but even though the results are debatably what Canucks fans might have wanted to see at this point in the season, we still have ourselves an Abbotsford squad that has been giving us so much to cheer for too. Let's start out with the big news in acknowledging that forward Arshdeep Bains just got sent down to Abbotsford. This was a move that I think a lot of people in Canucks Nation kind of agree needed to happen. Unfortunately, Arshdeep was just not good enough to stick around with the main club. He was somewhat of a liability to watch in the Vegas game, and I think it's common consensus at this point that Arshdeep needed more AHL time. Not to say that it was a mistake to bring him up or it was a mistake to play him in the first place. These are experiments for a reason, right? The fact is, Arshdeep Bains' little cup of coffee at the NHL level meant something because it allowed Canucks fans and management to acknowledge what he is. So far, he just needs a little bit more polishing up before he's really able to tango at the NHL level. I'd say the first game he played against Colorado earlier in the year was maybe, dare I say, his best game? He looked pretty motivated in that one, and he didn't make many mistakes, but as of late, some of the other games that Bains has played off in, he has not looked good, so sending him back down to the AHL where he can just dominate his territory, you gotta remember he is still a fairly new professional hockey player. He's only been in this scene for what is now his second year. This is, at the end of the day, a guy who will need some extra time. And that's okay. He's still 23, so he can grow, he can develop, maybe not into a top 6 capacity, but if he ends up becoming some sort of a depth player, a role guy, bottom 6 forward with a little bit of a scoring touch, then that would be pretty good too. Not that bad for a free agent, right? But either way, when it comes to the Abbotsford Canucks, we do have some crazy statistics to go over when it comes to who's producing points and just how good they're doing. Here's a tweet made by Dave Hall, which goes out there and talks about these individual Canucks guys. The tweet is from yesterday, and it showcases a goal scored by Sheldon Dries that was assisted by Jett and Aatu Raty. This was against the Manitoba Moose, and it was a pretty good goal if I do say so myself. Lots of cycling going on, the long shot, the tip-in, and the information that is included in the tweet really goes out there and shows how good things have been. 17 points in 7 games for Aatu Raty, 9 points in 8 games for Jett. Meanwhile, for Sheldon Dries, if you want to go out there and talk about him, hey, guess what? He is one of the top guys in the AHL in total goals. Here's another tweet by Dave. By the way, Sheldon Dries very quietly sits in a tie for 5th in the AHL in goals. And he's only played 49 games. So if you take a look at this, I mean, there is a tie for this spot in AHL goals. Samuel Fagemo has the most at 39 in 44 games, which is pretty nuts when you think about it. Adam Gaudette, Canucks legend, 38 goals in 60 games. Rocco Grimaldi has 33 goals in 64 games. Max McCormick has 28 in 60 games. And then Matej Blumel, Logan Shaw, Sheldon Dries, Raphael Lavoie, and Pierre Dubé each have 27, but Dries has done so in the fewest amount of games. Now, I did see a few people go out there and say, why exactly is it that Arshdeep Bains even got an opportunity? Why would we not try to see Aatu Raty? Why not Dries? And I think it has to do with the waiver situation. There was a conversation floating around that indicated that Sheldon Dries would require waivers if he gets called up and then sent back down. And of course, because Dries has been very valuable for the Canucks both in an Abbotsford and Vancouver capacity, they wouldn't want to lose him out on waivers. So giving opportunities at the NHL level to guys that have the eligibility to be sent down without any problems seems to have been a priority with the way they decided who gets a chance and who doesn't. So for Arshdeep Bains, he had an extended look. He didn't really look all too great, which is why he's getting sent back down, which is okay, considering that the Abbotsford Canucks could use a little bit extra oomph in that respect. But when it comes to some of these other guys, Aatu Raty is a great name because we just talked about him the other day, breaking the Abbotsford Canucks record for most points in a period, I'm pretty sure it was. He had 5? And if you take a look at some of the games, I mean, he's got 9 points in his last 5 games and 14 points in his last 10, and he's all the way up there to a total of 51 points in 66 games played. This is the best point production Aatu Raty has exhibited in a North American team ever. Last year with the Bridgeport Islanders, he wasn't as good. With the Abbotsford Canucks, he wasn't as good. This year, he is dominant. And a lot of these points have really started to come out here in the past little while. He had 2 4-point games. I think the record that we had talked about was about 4 points, not 5. My apologies. But he had 2 4-point games, other 2-point games in there. He's been racking up points like crazy, Aatu Raty has. And it's boded well for the Abby Canucks in being able to get wins on the board. Same could be said for Jett, a guy whom a lot of Canucks fans seem to have forgotten about, and for pretty understandable reasons. Wu was in my draft class, 2018, second-round pick, right-handed guy. He's now 23 years old, 6 feet 205. He was one of the most physical defensemen in the WHL at that time, and the season after he got drafted, he was a point-per-game player, and a lot of people took this as a sign as to what could have been in store for Jett. Unfortunately, a lot of his production diminished over the next few years because that 66 point in 62 game played season with the Warriors was bolstered up by the top players that team had. You had Brayden, Tracy, Justin Almeida, Tristan Langen all near the top, and then Josh Brook was also rounding out that top power play unit. Jett, I don't want to say he was a passenger, but he was kind of a passenger, and the point production was a bit misleading because the next few seasons saw him produce significantly less. He took a long time in Abbotsford before he became what he is today. He had 21 points in 68 games last year. This year he's got 31 points in 61 games, on pace for about 34. He's also got 90-plus penalty minutes for back-to-back seasons, so this really is a guy that has come into his own physically and in terms of being a menace against the opponents. Not to mention his crazy point production, too. Multiple 2-point games. Jett, actually, as of right now, he does have a 9-point in 8-game stretch, which includes 6 points in his last 4 games. The Abby Canucks have been on a tear recently, and the best part about it is some of the top guys in points are on that younger side. Aatu Raty, Jett, Linus Carlsson, all of these guys are pretty projectable potential NHL players in the future, and I think at this point in the Abbotsford Canucks timeline, it's kind of weird because I think a lot of Canucks fans have been used to the black hole that was Vancouver Canucks AHL development. And the reason I say that is because over the years, the Canucks haven't really utilized the AHL to the best of their ability. The Utica Comets was not really great. They only had one guy, pretty much, come out of that system in Jacob Markstrom, but all the other prospects the Canucks had that were in Utica never really became anything. You had the Brendan Gaunces of the world, the Hunter Shinkaricks, the Nicholas Jensens, and you had some guys that played a little bit in the AHL, like Bo Horvat and Jake Virtanen, but for the most part, a lot of the bigger Canucks prospects to players did not need to go through the Utica system. Pettersson, Hughes, and Besser all made the jump straight out of their junior teams. So for Abbotsford to have this entirely new system where all of a sudden it's like, yeah, last year Höglander, he was a good AHL player, good Abby guy. Now he's in the Vancouver Canucks system and he's good. Podkolzin is a serviceable NHL player. Arshdeep Bains may be on the cusp of being that soon. Aatu Raty, Linus Carlsson, Jett, these guys are producing, and they might have some NHL potential. Christian Willander was a dominant force in Abbotsford a while ago, and then he made the NHL club. This is different. Vancouver hockey is now experiencing good AHL development, and it's something that we haven't seen in years. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, firstly, about Arshdeep Bains getting sent down to the Abby Canucks, as well as the staggeringly amazing performances that we have seen out of guys like Aatu Raty, Jett, and you could even say Linus Carlsson. What are your thoughts on the way these guys have been playing? If you've been following the Abby Canucks and the games they've had, what are your opinions on who's been standing out, who has been on the up and up, and what do you think these guys could be as they develop into NHL projectable players? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.